So the first lesson I kind of pulled from this situation is to have a plan and then make a better plan. There was, yeah, we had plan A through E, but ultimately the bones that we were working off of was just not a good idea. It didn't put us or myself in the ideal situation to thrive in that conundrum we put ourselves in. It's important to do your due diligence in planning things. There was one of the NCOs that are sergeants that I've encountered while I was on active duty. He was some grading us on some task. It doesn't matter what it was, but he was talking about how people always come up to him whenever he's supposed to grade them, and they just kind of freak out in the moment. And he said, as a man, it is your duty to always have a plan in everything you do. Don't just go flying into some situation not knowing what you're going to do. Have a plan, step by step, one thing at a time, what you're going to do. And obviously there's going to be situations where you just got to fly by the seat of your pants, but if you can avoid that situation, you should. You have a responsibility to. That's kind of the last resort. You shouldn't put yourself in that situation if you can afford not to. And doing your due diligence is just being careful and persistent in your work or effort, whatever you're doing. Just always have a plan. A failure to plan is a plan to fail. That's another thing I've always heard. But that's the first thing. The second is don't act hastily or out of emotion. I was about to hand money over to that guy, that kind gentleman, and just figure it out because I had this idea in my head. This is my dream truck. I'll make it work. And there's a time and place to just make it work, but leaning into the point beforehand, that's not what that's not the default. I had this whole idea in my head. Oh, this is my dream truck. I'm going to take a piece of crap and turn it into something beautiful. And the more that you act out of emotion, just because you have this idea and you want to cling to this idea, that habit is not going to serve you well. It didn't serve me well in that situation. And there's a Bible verse, Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it yields a harvest of righteousness. And if I had had some discipline in that situation from the get-go, to start with, from the first place, I would have had a different plan. I would have not put myself in that much of a time crunch, if I did really want that truck. And if I wanted to just figure it out, then I shouldn't have done it in that situation where it could have put myself and my buddy in a spot where we could get in trouble for being late to getting back, or just stranded on the side of the road. I would have been. He had a working vehicle, but I know he wouldn't have left me there. So just because that's how good of a friend he is, but acting out of emotion, acting hastily, it'll rob you of your future sooner or later. You may not see it immediately, but like the verse says, later on, it'll come around, whether you did your due diligence or not. You'll reap what you sow. Um, but again, the last point I want to hit on is to be the old guy selling the truck. It can be a lot of people in that situation would have taken the money and said, "It's your problem." But he had a kind heart and saw that I was in over my head, and he did the right thing. And it's important to first of all, on my part, to see that and to be gracious for be thankful for him realizing that that wasn't a good a good thing, a good situation for me to put myself in. And or it doesn't have to be just saying no. It could have been what he said to start with. He's like, hey, let's make sure we take it out for a spin first, but and just all around, they were some great people. He and his wife, and very welcoming and accommodating. He went out of his way to try to make sure that we were taken care of however he could. Now, I'm not to say that you should be accommodating to people who don't deserve it. If people show who they are or whatever, don't let yourself get taken advantage of there. But for most situations, just you can just be kind and welcoming to people, and let the Lord's grace and kindness show through you to other people. But that's about what I got here. Yeah, that's the all I got for the cursed truck saga. Hopefully, there's not more of them. I could think of a couple truck stories that would bring some value, but I won't include them in the cursed truck category. But just remember, if you can learn from your mistakes, you can survive in life. But if you can learn from somebody else's, you'll be able to thrive. I truly believe that. I've seen that in my life. If you can learn the lessons without having to go through the pain for them, you'll be in a lot better position than you would have otherwise. But I appreciate y'all watching. I love you, and I'm thankful for you. If you want to have a certain direction you want to see content go, leave it in the description below. If you want to support the channel, there will also be links in the description for ways to do that. I have a woodworking channel and an Etsy shop for that. If you want to check those things out, we'll be having a Veterans Day sale coming up this coming weekend next week. And then I also have a financial coaching business and YouTube dedicated to that as well. So lots of options here. But if you decide to help support the channel, I just know that I really appreciate it. But I'll see you next time. Have a great week.